to our In Focus discussion tonight on Pacific Islanders and elite colleges. Getting into a top-ranked university is a difficult process as the competition is rigorous. So what can students do to increase their chances of getting accepted? Joining us now, live in studio to talk about her story on becoming Harvard material is Malia Isaacs, who was just accepted to Harvard and will attend this fall. Malia, welcome to the show and congratulations on getting into Harvard.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and for this opportunity. It's really a dream come true.
We're excited to talk to you. All right, so let's start with your background and upbringing, basically life before college. How big is your family? What activities were you interested in during high school? And what's most important to you?
Yes, so I come from a family of 9 people. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister, and I'm number 5. I go to Jordan High School, and honestly, I have many passions, but rugby has been one of the biggest outlets to getting me into many different opportunities like dream schools and different outlets for being scouted. Honestly, high school really helped me get better at time management and becoming a good student athlete, and yeah, I just...
High school is, a time when you really have to juggle everything. Now, did the thought of attending an elite college ever cross your mind as you were navigating through high school and started applying to colleges? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
Yeah, so at a young age, I was actually scouted by Harvard my freshman year, and it was always a dream, but it never really struck to me as like a reality until recently when Manuel Life helped me apply and get all of my stuff together, and it actually started to become a dream come true, and it's really crazy to think that this is actually happening to me.
Yeah, that is really incredible. Now, I want to know about the application process. Now, I know this is going to make me sound old, but I applied for college 12 years ago. But I still remember what that process was like. There was so much paperwork. I can only imagine what the process is like for an elite college. What was the process like? Tell us everything from the paperwork to the interviews. What was it like?
Yeah, so the first thing I did was I got onto the Common App, and I had to fill out all of these different applications, and depending on which school you were going to, you had to do different types of interviews and essays and like assignments for it. And so for Harvard, I had to do an essay, like a personal essay, which I wrote on my Pacific Islander heritage and how it's being kind of stripped away from us. Then I also had an interview with one college alumni who was Brian Borg, and he told me about how his story and what to expect out of Harvard. I met with the coach a lot of times. Her name's Coach Mel Dunham, and she really calmed my nerves and made me feel more comfortable and like I can do this. And then I met with 3 alumni, and it was just like, it was very intimidating, but when the time got down to it, it was really a lot easier than people would expect out of an elite college.
I'm so glad that you had that support system from the alumni to like the advisors to help you through that process, because it can be, like you said, an intimidating process. So I want you to take us back to the day that you received your acceptance letter. What was that moment like to open up the envelope, find out that you got accepted, and what did that mean to you and your family?
Honestly, it was crazy to think that I actually got accepted. Honestly, I didn't want to get my hopes up just in case I didn't. But right when I opened it up and I figured out I got in, my brother was actually the person right next to me, and he's the first person I told. And it was great that he was the one there because he had been going through some issues. He got in a car crash and he made it out, and it was just really heartwarming that he could be the first person I could tell, because he was still there. And
yeah, there's a reason why he's still here, to celebrate this big accomplishment for you. I'm so glad you shared that with us. What's next for you? Do you know what career you'd like to pursue once you graduate, or what you'll be working towards?
I honestly have a bunch of different interests, and at Harvard you're not supposed to really decide a major until your second year. And so looking into the field of psychology. I am very interested in sports medicine and physical therapy. I also really like forensics. I think it's really interesting, and like, I don't know, I just want to see where life takes me. I'm gonna go with the flow.
There's so much to explore in the world. You don't have to decide right now. No pressure.
Oh, thank you.
All right, you've been hearing from Malia Isaacs, a future college student at Harvard University. Malia, thanks again for being on our show, and the best of luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight on Pacific Islanders and elite colleges. Experts say Pacific Islanders are underrepresented in higher education, with a smaller percentage going to college compared to other ethnic groups. At the elite schools, like the Ivy Leagues, Pacific Islanders make up only a fraction of the population. Joining us now live in studio are Alema and Geraldine Fitisimanu, the founders of Manuia, a program that helps Utahns, Pacific Islanders specifically, get into the colleges of their choice. Woo! I got the names right. I kept
Great
practicing
job.
it. Great. Okay, Alema, Geraldine, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
We'll start with you, Geraldine. What types of students do you work with, and which types of students benefit from your services?
So that's a great question. Many of our students are our own people, right? When we knew of our son getting into Stanford and our daughter getting into Harvard, it became a mission of ours to help others. And so that is why we started Manuia. We knew that if we could provide this service to help bridge the gap, that others could be there as well. But it's not limited to just Pacific Islanders. We work with any child that is academically prepared for this opportunity.
That is incredible. I love that you are providing a support system, because when we think about ourselves and when we were preparing for college, there were a number of us who didn't have that support system, and it just made it that much harder. Yeah. So Alema, what is the significance of education, or what does it mean in the Pacific Islander community?
So I grew up in APIA in Western Samoa, and in that community, it's used to providing for itself, right? So it knows that it has to go out and get engineers. It needs to go out and provide for itself for scientists and doctors, lawyers. And then when we come here to the United States, the mindset's a little bit different. They're not asked to do all those things. It seems like they kind of shy away for those types of positions that require a higher education of that sort. So we're trying to change the mindset a little bit, that we can do these things. You know, in Samoa, it has Samoan doctors and engineers and politicians, and so we can do the same here. The mindset just needs to be changed, that kids that belong at these schools, they can get these degrees, they can get that education, and we like to support them in that goal. Manuia likes to make sure every kid can reach their potential, whether it be higher education or even a trade.
I love that, and like with every other ethnic group, with Pacific Islanders, you don't just fit in one mold, right? And so education should be an option and a consideration for all of our teens when they think about what they want to do with their future. Yes. I'm going to stay on you, Alema. How many Pacific Islanders generally go to college or universities, and how have Pacific Islanders typically thought of their pathway to higher education?
So my background's been working in college football, Division I football. At both University of Utah and at Brigham Young University. And so when I was recruiting those kids, 17-year-old, 16-year-old football players, they had a pathway. But I met the entire family, both parents and siblings, and there's a whole other side of the family, siblings, didn't have a pathway necessarily if they didn't really have a good plan, good support system to head, so they can head in that direction. So that's where I knew that I had to step in and provide some services so that the Polynesian kids that we were meeting would have other opportunities. So we stepped in, knew the Ivy League was providing a lot of opportunities for our Polynesian kids. They wanted them on their campuses. They knew that they were special. They knew that they're good culture. They knew that they can make an impact on those campuses. So we partnered with many universities so that we can get those kids on those campuses.
I love that. Geraldine, what are some mindsets or thought processes that have typically discouraged these students from applying to elite colleges before?
You know, that's a great question, because when you think about mindset, you think about gaps, right? And so the gaps that we find are actually opportunities for us and the work that we do. Gaps of funding. Many families aren't aware of the billions of dollars, and I mean billions, of need-based funding that's out there. In addition to that, it's access to services. Educational consulting services were typically afforded to only the well-off or wealthy families, and so we knew we had to help with that. And then last is mindset. Many of our kids don't see themselves at these schools, and what we had to do was to show them that they belong, and they're needed on these campuses.
Yeah. Alema, this last question before we go to break is for you. Why is it important to have students of color, such as those with Pacific Islander backgrounds, at these elite colleges?
So when we talk to admissions counselors, we talk to football coaches, rugby coaches from the athletic department, they tell us, man, you got any good Polynesian kids to come and make sure that our culture is great in our locker room, and especially, you know, on their campuses. They know that the Polynesian kids can come in and make a great impact on campuses. You know, what happens is when you bring in a Polynesian kid that's raised right in the culture's very strong, and they're usually the ones, they're the sensible ones, they're usually the ones that bring people along. They look for those that are weaker and they protect the weaker. They look out for those. So that culture is really strong. So when they come on campuses, the impact is incredible. The impact, it changes the way teams and athletic departments do things, and then the campus itself, you know, from the academic side, they're a great addition. And so these counselors, they tell us that, man, we wish we could get more. And so that's why we stopped what we're doing, created this foundation, Manuia, so that we could help get these kids on those campuses.
I agree. I think that the more perspectives and backgrounds that you have at the table, the more well-rounded your environment is. All right, Geraldine and Alema, hold that thought. We have to take a quick commercial break. But when we return, we'll talk about how you two have helped college applicants put themselves in the best possible position to get accepted into the college of their choice. Welcome to our third and final In Focus discussion tonight on Pacific Islanders and elite colleges. Before the break, we were joined by Alema and Geraldine Fitisimanu, founders of Manuia, and now we pick up right where we left off. We'll start with you this time, Alema. Let's start this segment talking about the cost. How much can tuition be to attend these elite colleges?
So if you're talking about Ivy League or you're talking about the academies, that's probably the most elite. I think one of the estimates would be about $340,000 for an Ivy League education, about $400,000 for academies education. So that's a lot of money you're looking to get from these schools. But so we tell the students, hey, it's worth it. It's worth it. If you organize yourself nice and early, if you get started on those creating a history of the activities that you're supposed to be in, and start discovering your passion for the things that are important in your life, leadership, service, and all those types of things in 9th and 10th grade, you would have by your junior year a nice history of things to put down on your application. So it just needs to be an application that's cohesive, and you're telling that story that only you can tell. You're articulating that very well, and you're telling that school that you absolutely will make an impact on that campus. And if you give me that degree as well, this is what I'm going to do with that degree.
So the key word that I'm hearing here is preparation. So as long as
Absolutely.
you prepare and you take advantage of the resources and the support that is there for you, anything is possible no matter how much the cost is to these elite colleges. So that goes into my follow-up question to you, Geraldine. How can this be viewed as a barrier when it actually doesn't have to be?
You know, funding is a big gap, right, for our community. But when you remove funding, then the gap of access to services, like Alema had mentioned, many of our families kind of go through the application process as a check-the-box activity, and it's not. When you're looking at applying to these colleges that have less than a 5% acceptance rate, with Harvard actually having 40,000 applicants, that's where the stakes are really high, and we need to do the real work of packaging a student.
Talk about defying the odds. I love that. Alema, how does Utah's unique culture can be seen or can be used as a benefit to the application process for our students?
You know, the universities are looking for people that are unique, right? That you're going to bring a certain culture, things that you're passionate about. And to be able to do that, the state of Utah is very unique. The LDS community, the Rocky Mountains, even just the overall culture of Utah provides a lot of uniqueness and advantages, to the point where we could package a Utah kid, a Caucasian kid, we could package a Polynesian kid, of course, but we can really package a woman here coming out of Utah that makes them very, very unique. So when you're putting together an application like that, and it's showing passion, it's showing that you have a history of service and leadership, and that application is nice and cohesive. There's lots of advantages, and that's what gets your application rise to the top, where they're going to consider your application very seriously and get those admissions letters coming to you.
This is almost like a craft, like you're taking the most unique parts of each applicant and really highlighting and showcasing that. And that just makes me want to really commend the both of you for what you do. All right, next question is for Geraldine. We talked a little bit about timing. I want to reiterate this and talk about it a little bit more. When should these students and their families start thinking about and planning to apply for one of these schools? Is there a golden moment when they should start doing this?
You know, I'm so glad you asked this question, because many families wait too long. And they'll think in their mind, hey, my son or daughter, you know, is not a senior yet. We don't have to think about applying to college. But actually, Alema created a spreadsheet for our kids when they were from ages like 6 to 14. And he showed them the benchmarks of graduating high school, of graduating college, of actually maybe serving a service mission, of going to grad school. And so I would encourage parents to really take stock of this time that you have with your child and give them these expectations that they can achieve anything they want to in life. You know, we didn't raise our kids to go to Stanford and Harvard. We didn't even know if they could get in, let alone afford an Ivy League education. And so when this happened, it was like a game changer for us as parents. And we realized that we have some work to do within our community.
We would get along really well because I love spreadsheets too. And I can tell you that I didn't even consider leaving Utah because I didn't think it was a possibility for me, A, for admissions, and 2, because of tuition. So this is mind-blowing to me. We have about 30 seconds left. Alema and Geraldine, final words. Anything else that you would like our viewers tonight to know that we haven't discussed?
You know, if I could just kind of go in there, it's all about families. This work that we do within our families is important. We need to understand that as we empower our children to think beyond the ceiling and the barriers that they seem to have in front of them, that life is unimaginable, that goals that they have are actually attainable, and we can change the mindset of not only our community, but the state of our world. And so that is why we chose to start Manuia. It stems from our last name, Fitisamanu, Fiki meaning flip or fall, and Manuia meaning blessing. And that is literally the proverb, may a blessing fall your way. And we hope that that is the work we do with every student and every family.
That is beautifully said. All right, so you don't know until you try, and don't be afraid of hearing no. All right, you've been hearing from Geraldine and Alema Fatisi Manu, founders of Manuia. Thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. It's been incredible to hear what you're doing for our students.